What do we mean when we talk about the perversions? Always in inverted commas, of course. Who gets to decide what's normal, what's abnormal?
Perversion. It's a word that carries a heavy weight. What happens when it takes root, becoming a stronghold in our lives? Imagine the slow, insidious creep of darkness, a force that twists and distorts everything it touches. This is the reality of the stronghold of perversion. It doesn't just impact the individual, it ripples outwards, affecting families, relationships, and even communities. In today's episode, we'll uncover the manifestations of perversion. We'll see how this stronghold can grip our minds, distort our realities, and lead us down paths of destruction. But no matter how deep the darkness, there's always a way out. First, for those that don't know, let's define a stronghold. A stronghold is an internal block, a mental or spiritual safe place for false beliefs. These beliefs can come from the enemy or our own negative thinking, and they're often deeply rooted and defended. They can stay hidden for years until they're finally exposed. And in each episode, we'll explore how modern media and millennial society reflect the 17 strongholds. Perversion shows up when we live by our fleshly desires instead of God's spirit. Demonic influences also tempt and deceive us and lead us into sinful behaviors. Modern culture often normalizes and promotes perverse behaviors through media and entertainment, and this makes people reject God, and rejecting God's truth leads to a depraved mind and sinful actions. Involvement in occult practices, false religions can also introduce perverse spiritual influence. Child abuse is also common among those under the influence of the spirit of perversion. In fact, the spirit of perversion may have initially come into the abuser's life through abuse when they were a child. A lot of the times, it can be a cycle of abuse, generation after generation. We see the acceptance of sexual immorality. Popular TV shows and movies often glamorize extramarital affairs, casual sex, and unique sex practices. They normalize behaviors that stray far away from traditional values. The objectification of women is another critical issue. In the advertising and entertainment industries, women are frequently portrayed primarily as sex objects. This portrayal fosters a culture of sexism. It increases incidents of sexual harassment. It devalues women's worth beyond their physical appearance. And lastly, let's address the normalization of abortion. Touchy. Media and political rhetoric often frame abortion as a basic human right, glossing over the moral complexities involved. This numbs society to the value of life. It raises abortion rates and leaves deep emotional and psychological wounds. Let's flash back and look at perversion as a stronghold in society during the Renaissance era. The Renaissance was from the 14th through the 17th century, which was a period in European history that marked a revival of interest in art, science, classical knowledge. This era produced some of the most renowned artists, thinkers, and writers, including Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Shakespeare. However, alongside its celebrated achievements, the Renaissance also witnessed a notable rise in hedonism and sexual excess. Proverbs 21 verse 2 reminds us, every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the hearts. What was once seen as good is now labeled as evil, while what was previously considered wrong is celebrated as right. This spirit loves to reshape reality, to justify its own existence, and its impact on individuals, society is really profound.
Hey, how come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes, when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I like to touch my vulva too.
The spirit encourages people to follow their desires without considering the consequences. Under its influence, individuals become increasingly self-centered, focusing solely on their own needs and wants. This can lead to really devastating consequences. In relationships, spouses betraying another, parents abusing their children, and friends using one another. Think of millennial culture's transactional relationships, leading to friendships based on what individuals can gain from one another rather than mutual support. A person ensnared by the spirit of perversion may also exhibit a quick temper or become easily irritated. These aggressive behaviors create a cycle of dysfunction, not only affecting the individual but also those around them. Media often glamorizes violent serial criminals, creating a disturbing cultural fascination with murderers and their stories. For instance, Ted Bundy's charm and charisma are explored in documentaries like Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, which tend to overshadow the disgusting and horrible nature of his crimes.
Ted Bundy is one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. He viciously assaulted and killed dozens of women in the 60s and 70s, and at the time of his execution, he had confessed to 30 murders.
Bundy's murder trial was the first nationally televised trial. It was the first time serial murder and serial rape was made into live entertainment.
The audience now had a front row seat inside the courtroom, and they couldn't get enough.
Press, contrary to section 78204 Florida statute. I'll plead not guilty right now. And your
You
grand
can trace a line from that to O.J. Simpson's trial, where the 24-hour news cycle was now kicking in, and you can trace that line to today, where there's just been this obsession with true crime. We have 5% of the world's population, and we have had 67% of the world's documented serial killers.
Similarly, the life of John Wayne Gacy, depicted in films such as The Killing of America, makes his normal appearance seem more important while ignoring the seriously disturbing impact of what he actually did. Or what about the Jeff Dahmer craze and the multiple movies and shows that came with his wave of fame? This shift in focus downplays serious issues like violent perversion and mental illness. It creates a culture that overlooks the moral problems while glorifying these shameful figures. This passage from Romans 1 verse 21 through 28 teaches us a profound lesson about the consequences of turning away from God. Despite knowing God, people fail to honor him or show gratitude, leading to pointless thinking and darkened hearts. They claimed wisdom but became fools by exchanging God's glory for images of men and animals. This act, termed the first dark exchange, led to God allowing people to follow their sinful desires, resulting in sexual impurity and the degradation of their bodies. They replaced God's truth with lies, worshiping created things instead of the Creator. Consequently, God permitted them to pursue these shameful lusts, leading to indecent acts and penalties for their perversion. This passage highlights the dire effects of rejecting God's truth and the moral decay that follows. To prevent the stronghold of perversion, guard your heart. Proverbs 4 verse 23 encourages us to keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Renew your mind, seek accountability, and don't forget you have God's grace. Understanding the nature of the spirit of perversion is crucial. What you can't understand, you may not be able to withstand. So remember, what you feed your eyes, your ears, and your mind shapes your spiritual diet. Be vigilant and discerning in what you consume to not be influenced by the weird, desensitized, and the perverse. In our next episode on the 17 Stronghold Series, we'll equip ourselves to break the stronghold of grief. Don't miss it.